He had always been a man of logic, someone who measured life in facts, schedules, and routines. The world was orderly, predictable, and safe. And yet, despite all his careful planning, something inside him ached, a quiet emptiness he could never explain. Every morning he woke, went to work, returned home, ate, slept, and repeated, as though life itself were a loop designed to dull the senses and hide the truth. One night, unable to sleep, he wandered into the nearby forest, drawn by the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of an owl. The moon hung low, a silver sliver slicing through the darkness, and he walked deeper into the trees than he had ever dared before. That was when he saw them, the shadows. Not ordinary shadows, but strange shapes flickering at the edge of his vision, moving independently of the trees or the wind. He stopped, heart racing, convinced he was imagining things. But then a voice whispered, soft yet clear, "Why do you run from us?" He looked around, trying to find the source, but saw nothing. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice trembling. "We are your shadows," the voice replied. "The parts of yourself you refuse to see, the truths you hide even from yourself. You have spent your life running, controlling, planning, but every step you took away from us has chained you tighter than any law, any rule, any fear." The man froze. For years, he had avoided uncomfortable feelings, difficult choices, and the pain of facing his failures. He had buried anger, regret, and sorrow deep inside, and now they had taken shape, whispering to him in the night. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "To show you," the shadows said, "that avoidance is not protection, fear is not safety, hiding is not freedom. Every moment you ignore who you are, who you could be, is a moment lost forever." He fell to his knees, struggling to understand, and in that moment he realized the truth. He had spent decades treating life as something outside himself, something to control, predict, or escape. He had never allowed himself to truly feel, to truly act, to truly live. The shadows began to swirl around him, forming shapes that reminded him of his past, conversations he had avoided, opportunities he had ignored, relationships he had abandoned. Each vision pierced him with a clarity he could not deny. His heart ached and tears flowed freely, but the pain was cleansing like a storm, washing away years of dust and neglect. Then a new voice whispered, gentler this time, "To live fully, you must speak with us. Name us. Face us. Listen to what we have to teach you." He took a deep breath. One by one, he confronted each shadow. Fear, regret, anger, guilt, shame, they all spoke, revealing truths he had ignored. Some were painful, others humbling, but all were necessary. And with each confrontation, he felt a shift inside himself, as if chains were breaking, as if a weight he had carried for decades was lifting. Days turned into weeks. Each night, he returned to the forest, speaking with his shadows, listening, learning. And gradually, he noticed something astonishing. The shadows began to shrink, their whispers softer, less frightening. He realized that by facing them, by acknowledging them, he was reclaiming his own power. The parts of himself he had feared were not enemies, they were guides, teachers, and allies. And here, I want you to pause, because this is where the story touches every one of us. How many shadows do you ignore in your own life? How many fears, regrets, or unspoken truths do you avoid because they make you uncomfortable? What would happen if you faced them one by one and allowed them to teach you instead of control you? The man's transformation was not sudden. He stumbled, sometimes retreated, but he never stopped returning. Slowly, he rebuilt his life, but differently this time. He spoke openly with friends he had hurt, apologized where it mattered, and embraced risks he had once avoided. He allowed himself to feel joy, sadness, and every emotion in between. And with each choice, each act of courage, his shadows shrank further, replaced by light, clarity, and freedom. One night, standing in the forest, the man whispered to the shadows, "Thank you. You have taught me more about life than I ever knew." And they replied, softly, "You always had the answers inside. We were only here to guide you to see them." And here is the lesson for you. You cannot outrun your shadows. You cannot hide from fear, regret, or your own truths. But you can face them, speak to them, learn from them, and transform them into the light of your courage. The moment you do, life ceases to be something you merely endure and becomes something you actively create. If this story has stirred something in your heart, take a moment now. Subscribe to this channel and leave a comment about one shadow you will face today. It could be a fear, a regret, or a choice you've avoided. Sharing it is the first step to reclaiming your life. From that night forward, the man walked the world differently. He smiled more freely, laughed more openly, and lived more fully than he ever had. And he never forgot the lesson his shadows taught him. That darkness is not to be feared, it is to be understood, embraced, and ultimately transformed into the light of courage. Remember this, your shadows are not enemies. They are teachers. And the sooner you speak to them, the sooner you reclaim the life you were meant to live.